active duty, reserve or senior officers, and prominent civic business leaders. I would like to specifically recognize Vice Admiral Charles Ray, Deputy Commandant for Operations, and our current Ancient Albatross. Rear Admiral Jack Boat, Assistant Commandant for Response Policy. Rear Admiral James Van Sice, U.S. Coast Guard retired, President of the Coast Guard Aviation Association. Senior Chief Butler, U.S. Coast Guard retired and enlisted Ancient Albatross number 3. And Mr. Hunter Hall, representative for U.S. Congressman Buddy Carter. Thank you all for being here. Additionally, it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Faith Hill, wife of Master Chief Hill. And Mrs. Amber Harris, wife of Master Chief Harris. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Commander Marshall Branch, Air Station Savannah Commanding Officer, and your Master of Ceremonies for this event. Welcome to Air Station Savannah. We have gathered here to celebrate 2 time-honored traditions. First will be the Enlisted Ancient Albatross Change of Watch, followed by Master Chief Clay Hill's retirement from active duty in the United States Coast Guard after almost 34 years of faithful service. The Enlisted Ancient Albatross Award was established in 1988 to honor the active duty Coast Guard enlisted aircrew member with the earliest graduation date from an aviation rating Class A school. Today, Master Chief Kit Harris will relieve Master Chief Clay Hill as the Coast Guard's 11th Enlisted Ancient Albatross, having graduated from Aviation Electrician's Mate Class A School on March 10, 1989 in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. During today's ceremony, military members of the audience are requested to remain covered and to follow appropriate commands for salutes. Now I'd like to introduce a member of the official party already on the stage, Lieutenant Rick Williams, Chaplain, United States Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remain standing for the arrival of the official party, the presentation of the colors, and the invocation. Now, Master Chief Petty Officer arriving. Now, 10th Enlisted Ancient Albatross arriving. Now, Coast Guard arriving. And salute. Ready, 2. Color Guard, present the colors. And salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran loud, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Halt! Right shoulder! Hoop! Halt! Halt! Hoop! Halt! 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 And on. Ready? Out. Ready? Shoot. Hold. Ready? Up. Hold. Hold. Hoop.
At ease. Chaplain Williams will now offer the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, at this time we pray, Lord, guard and guide the men who fly through the great spaces in the sky. Be with them always in the air, in darkening storms or sunlight fair. Oh, hear us when we lift our prayer for those in peril in the air. In this hangar surrounded by the aviation community, we gather to watch the mantle of leadership pass from Master Chief Hill to Master Chief Harris. As the 10th Enlisted Ancient Albatross, he is the embodiment of wisdom and knowledge through his many years of experiences. In the Hebrew Scriptures, we see when Elijah was taken to heaven, he left his mantle for Elisha to wear as a visible sign of his authority. And today we watch as the ceremonial garb is passed on as a visible sign of the transfer of authority and wisdom being passed on for the next generation. We praise you for the leadership of Master Chief Hill and his willingness to serve in this role. He didn't assume the title for glory, rather he assumed it to teach the next generation what it means to serve as an enlisted aircrew for our Coast Guard. We pray for Master Chief Harris as he assumes this new role. May he be able to invest in the aircrew members around the Coast Guard, helping each of them to strive to be the best they can be. They operate in unforgiving conditions, and they will look to him as the example to go out and complete their missions. We praise you for giving us the opportunity to participate and support these men as the mantle of leadership is transferred. As we continue this ceremony, we ask that you bless our proceedings today. In your precious and holy name, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, Lieutenant Commander Sherry, for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem. It is now my distinct honor to introduce the presiding official for today's Enlisted Ancient Albatross Change of Watch ceremony, the 25th Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Paul Zukunft.
Well, good morning, and what a great morning it is. I first want to thank our honor guard who came down from Alexandria, Virginia to preside at this official and pay tribute to our 10th and 11th Enlisted Ancient Albatrosses. I also want to thank my military aide, Lexi Cherry. I make sure she stays well hydrated on the airplane ride down here because only she can do our national anthem justice that I cannot. So thank you, Lexi, for that great rendition of the national anthem. And I want to thank Air Station Savannah, the men and women who serve here, who are standing the watch as we speak, for hosting this event. And certainly this traces back to the history of our 10th Ancient Enlisted Albatross. And so what is special about this venue is, first of all, what is it about Savannah? Well, in 1979, I was the commanding officer of the Coast Guard cutter Cape Upright, which tied up at Skidaway Island, which hadn't even been built out yet. So if we're talking about ancient, you're looking at prehistoric. But when you look at the city of Savannah, it's known as the hostess city of the South. It's known for its charm. And having lived here, I got to experience that charm as well. And that same charm rubbed off on our 10th Enlisted Ancient Albatross. It was in the Peachtree State, not here in Savannah, where Clay Hill met his lovely wife, Faith. And their growing family of 5, and it looks like grandchildren are now entering into that fold as well. But it isn't just the charm and love that he had for his family, but it's also, he carried the same charm as an aviation survival technician in his world of work, rescuing many of those who were in peril on the sea. In fact, he would use that charm something like this. If someone is flailing in the water, he would come up to him and say, "Hello, my name is Clay. I will be your rescue swimmer for today. What do you say we go home and we get you into some dry clothes?" But just that charm alone, if you can imagine if you are a drowning victim and the anxiety level that you're experiencing, but that charm goes a long way. When you look at aviation survival technicians, it isn't just their ability to swim, it truly is their ability to charm and ease that anxiety so people can live to see another day. Now, when you look at an albatross is often looked at as a blessing and a curse. Now, as a cutterman, we would often see an albatross in our wake. If you saw an albatross in your wake, it meant it was a sign of good luck. You've been blessed. But if you ever cause harm to an albatross, you are cursed for life. In fact, that's where the term an albatross around your neck originally came from. But when I look at albatrosses today, and again as a cutterman, if we deploy without a helicopter on our flight deck, I would shake my head and say, what is the purpose of deploying without our albatross? In fact, we could not do the missions that we do today without these albatrosses in our midst, our aviation community. If I look back just in the last year alone, our aviation unit in Washington, D.C., they protect the National Capital Region. In this last year, they were recognized among all of the alert squadrons in the United States, to include up in Alaska as well. It was our aviation detachment, our Blackjacks. I wear their patch today. They were the NORAD Alert Unit of the Year. And back in January, Pitron, our aviation use of force squadron down in Jacksonville, performed its 500th interdiction at sea. In fact, last year we removed more cocaine ever in our service's history. We could not do it without those albatrosses. And in fact, this year we're probably going to beat last year's record as well. You don't have to go back too far in history. Back in 2010, and many of you were part of the response to Hurricane Katrina. And again, it were these albatrosses that saved over 30,000 lives. Largest rescue operation ever in our service's history. So I would have to say that an albatross is indeed a sign of good luck and of hope. And we have other ancients in our communities as well. We have ancient mariners. In our prevention community, we have ancient tridents. In our boat forces, we have ancient keepers. And of course, we also have our ancient albatross. Well, let me talk a little bit about the ancient albatross, because our missions, let's face it, they are inherently hazardous. In fact, when there are storms on the horizon, and people are fleeing from those storms, it's our sailors, it's our aviators that are driving into those storms. And I depend upon our ancients. I depend upon our ancients to make sure that when we go back, we all return as well. Now, if you ever saw the movie The Finest Hours about Bernie Weber, and as he's heading out in that boat, Bernie says, you know, they say in the Coast Guard you have to go out, but you don't have to come back in. In fact, it's Coast Guard regulations. Well, there is no such regulation. But on a serious note, we have entered the longest period in our more than 100 years in aviation history without an aviation incident and without loss of life. That happened on the 28th of February in 2012. Coast Guard Helicopter 6535 in Mobile Bay went down. Went down with Lieutenant Commander Dale Thomas, Lieutenant J.G. Tom Cameron, Aviation Survival Technician Chief Fernando Jorge, and AET-3 Andrew Knight. It's now been over 5 years. It's been 5 years because we've had ancients, like our ancient gold and our ancient silver mariners, that have stood the watch. They're going to don a cloak and goggles, and while it may all seem good fun, this is serious business. The work that we do is serious business. We have more aircraft flying today than ever in our Coast Guard history. The missions we're doing today are inherently more risky than they were 10, 15, even in 100 years ago. But they all come back and they all return. I could not do it without ancients. And that's why it is so important for me to thank them. Because as a Commandant of the Coast Guard, the worst phone call you ever make is when you call a loved one. And you're the first to make that phone call to say that their loved one will not be returning, that they have crossed the bar. So I want to thank Master Chief Hill. No one has crossed the bar on your watch. And the same challenge will go out to Master Chief Harris, and I know he will take that burden of responsibility, as has our 25th Ancient Albatross, Vice Admiral Charlie Ray, to make sure that the risk that we encounter, we can accommodate that risk by the best training, techniques, the best platforms. And so I am indebted to our great, great ancients who allow us to do what we do, but at the same time make sure that we all return. So after this ceremony, we will officially bid farewell to Master Chief Clay Hill after 34 years of distinguished service. And you always think, where did you leave your mark? Who are the ASTs out there? Who are our aviation survival technicians? And who was? Okay, I see some formers out there as well. between 50 to 70% of those who wish to be aviation survival technicians don't get there. Not everyone makes the football team. And these are the folks, that is the legacy that Master Chief Hill will leave behind. And they will pay it forward to the next generation of young men and women who think nothing of jumping out of a perfectly good helicopter and into a raging sea. And among all the many lives that Master Chief Hill has saved on his watch, he's not done yet. Because in his next chapter of life, he's going to be a physician's assistant. And will continue to save lives in the next chapter of his life. So Master Chief Hill, I thank you for standing the watch. Let's give him a round of applause. And what great continuity we have as we recognize Master Chief Kit Harris, who will now step up and wear the mantle of the 11th Enlisted Ancient Albatross. He's one of our force rating Master Chiefs, looking out for the health of our aviation community. At a point in time where aviators are leaving the service, they're jumping ship to go work for the airlines. So it isn't about a paycheck that you get in the Coast Guard. It's about the mission. It's about the fulfillment. About why do you get up in the morning and come to work? And for him, and like many others in this great service of ours, it's to go out there and save a life. It's to go out there and apprehend a transnational criminal trying to smuggle drugs into our country. It's about protecting our nation's capital. It's about wearing the flag of the United States on your sleeve. That's what it's all about. It's about leaders. And it's about leaders, and it's tremendous that we have leaders like Kit Harris to lead this community, to lead our Coast Guard as our 11th Enlisted Ancient Albatross. And Kit, I know you are going to rise to this occasion. The weight of that cloak, the scarf, the goggles, the helmet, that won't weigh you down nearly as much as the responsibility that you are going to bear as our 11th Ancient Albatross. But like all albatrosses, you are truly a blessing. You bring us hope, and you are the harbinger of good luck. Not just to our aviation community, but to our entire United States Coast Guard. So as I close, may God bless our 10th and 11th Ancient Albatrosses. May God bless their loving family. You didn't volunteer to stand the watch, but you stood the watch anyway. They could not do what they do without your tremendous support. So I thank the families of Clay Hill and of Kit Harris as well. So may God bless these families. May God bless our Coast Guard and these United States of America. Thank you, and Semper Fidelis.
Thank you, Admiral Zukunft. Now please allow me to introduce the 10th Enlisted Ancient Albatross, Master Chief Clay Hill.
Thank you, Admiral. I appreciate your kind words. Thank you for your leadership. And I have to say, I know you're a cutterman at heart, but that flight suit looks sharp on you. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support. I'd like to thank a couple people. I will be brief here. Admiral Ray, our current gold Ancient Albatross, I appreciate your leadership and your friendship and your mentorship. Rear Admiral Van Sice, representing the Coast Guard Aviation Association, you've done a lot. You support this whole project, and you bring an important link back to our past, because we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been. I've been blessed to serve as the Ancient Albatross for the last 2 years, representing all of the enlisted men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard. It's been an honor as they serve the Coast Guard and our nation. Just to let you know, what they do is, once this is all done, and all the chairs are put away, all the papers picked up, they're going to pull the other helicopters inside, they're going to work off the discreps, they're going to turn the planes around and make sure they're fueled, make sure the maintenance is good to go, and then this afternoon they're going to launch a plane up to JZI, Charleston, for those who don't know what that is. They're going to fly up to Charleston and stand the watch They're going to maintain one of the helicopters down here, ready to go at a moment's notice. And they're going to have a backup. And they're going to cover all the way well into Florida. And a couple hundred miles down the road, down in Miami, another bunch of enlisted aircrew, men and women, are going to do the same thing for their aircraft. And then they're going to cover all the way up to Tampa, St. Pete area, and that's where Clearwater, another dedicated group of professionals, young men and women, are going to be making sure that their aircraft are ready to go to save a life, to safeguard this country, to support the Coast Guard mission in service of our nation, all the way around the nation. And that's who I represent, is those young men and women, and I appreciate them. They say timing is everything, and I've been blessed during this time for mainly two reasons that I've served as the Ancient Albatross. The first is I got to serve during our 100-year anniversary of Coast Guard aviation. I've got to go around and see things, hear different speeches, and go to different ceremonies and hear about where we came from. And that's extremely important. I've been blessed. At some meetings, at one meeting I got to meet a young man, call him young, he's probably well in his high 80s, Igor Sikorsky, whose father actually created what we have now. And the mighty H-60 that I flew in, Big Iron, that's a Sikorsky product. They changed, they revolutionized aviation and helicopters. Igor Sikorsky was Sergei Sikorsky was a young Coast Guardsman. And I got to sit down and talk to him, and he talked about how they invented different gear that they use that has evolved into what we do now, different techniques that they've passed down over the years that's evolved to our procedures that we use to save lives. It was amazing. At another meeting, another roost, I got to meet a young man who was well into his 90s, World War II veteran, defended this country when Germany arose and Japan was against us. And he actually hunted U-boats in a Coast Guard aircraft, protected this country. I had the honor of meeting that person and talk to him firsthand. It's not a very long line when you think 100 years. At that point, aviation had only been around for about 40 or so years. That's most of our lifetimes. Starting from scratch to where the Wright brothers pushed off that plane on the beach with the help of Coast Guard personnel, island keepers, helping push the wings, to fighting aerial combat in World War I, where most of the deaths were occurred because the aircraft would just completely fall apart in flight. They were pushing beyond the limits, to what we have now. When I look in my past, I flew the H-65 when it was brand spanking new, but it was so behind the gear that we have now, the technology that we have now. How we found people, I have no idea, but we did. Also, I talked about fortuitous times. I was blessed because I got to serve with the gold Ancient Albatross, the commissioned officer, the pilot who's had the earliest designation, Vice Admiral Ray. Got to know him, spend time with him, be mentored, his friendship, and his lovely wife is done. I'm so glad that you could make it here. I really appreciate you. I would encourage each and every young coastie out there to consider joining the Coast Guard Aviation Association, Pterodactyls. A couple years ago, I thought it was just where old COs, old captains and admirals got together and hung out, but it is so much more than that. They reach out, they support Coast Guard aviation across the entire country, and they do so much to preserve our history, to support the young men and women that are graduating from A school, the newly minted pilots. I would definitely, if you have an insurance, please come see me, and I'll get you signed up. It's not very expensive. It has been an honor and privilege to serve as the Enlisted Ancient Albatross number 10. It's hard for me to look around. I'm seeing friends all over. It's like, oh my God, Lenny Day, served with him. He taught me a lot. And he was a senior chief and I was a young chief. And, all the ASTs gathered here. Mentors, friends. I'm honored. At this time, I'd like to call Master Chief Kit Harris up to the stage. I'm not going to talk a lot about Kit because most of you have a program and it's got a good detailed biography. Graduated A school in 1989. We had never crossed paths. We were never stationed together and flew together. Kit, your first unit was Marine. He had the option. He was going to go into rudder wing, I thought, but he was like, "No, I'm going fixed wing." So I never got to fly with Kit. We were never stationed at the same units, with the exception of our last unit up at headquarters. But we have a lot of the same friends, being Coast Guard Aviation is so small. I can tell you, Master Chief Harris is about his rating, proficiency, training. He's passionate about it. Many times, as the RFMC, we shape what the school teaches, what the young petty officers out in the field that are doing the maintenance, what we want them to be. And he has a clear vision, and he has the force and the personality to make sure that we achieve that goal. I'm handing this off to a very sound person who's going to do a fantastic job. I really appreciate you, and congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Chief Kit Harris.
Hard to follow those speeches. Admiral Zukunft, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I feel deeply honored. I'm very proud and humbled to become the 11th Enlisted Ancient Albatross. I want to thank, as did Clay, I want to thank the Coast Guard Association, the Ancient Order of Pterodactyls, who actively contribute to the history of Coast Guard aviation. They support aviation goals, promote camaraderie between aviation, all aviation personnel, and I'm honored to be associated with them. I also want to take this opportunity, having been a former CMC, and when these big events happen, I want to thank Commander Branch, his CMC, Dan Jeffords, and the crew of Air Station Savannah. I know these things are a lot of work, and I really appreciate you hosting it, so let's give them a round of hand. I also want to thank all the people that came from such a long distance, Admiral Ray, Commandant, and I'd really be remorse, I think, if I didn't call out some of the people that I have served with that have come such a long distance. I saw Buck Beaudry, Master Chief retired here today. Buck, I see one of my first mentors from years ago, Chief retired, Ken Johnson. Thank you, Ken. Came all the way from California. That's awesome. George Lura, Chief George Lura, one of my first friends. My first unit was Borinquen, and George, he was my neighbor and friend, him and Terry, and they drove up. Oh, he's back here. John Zakora, one of the best instructors I ever worked with when I was at the schoolhouse, training young AMTs. I also saw my counterpart and cube mate, Master Chief John Hersey, the AET Rank Force Master Chief. John, thank you. You've really helped me a lot the last couple of years trying to figure out headquarters. It's a challenging. And I got to call out a man that scared me to death when I first got out of A school. Went to my first unit. Master Chief retired Tom Scoggins. He was Master Chief when I was in third class, and getting called to his office was like, wow, what did I do? And I really appreciate you being here today. That's outstanding, Master Chief. Most of all, I want to thank Clay here, the former AST Rank Force Master Chief, Agent Albatross number 10, one of the kindest men I've ever met in my life. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything negative about anybody. Clay, thank you for helping me learn the intricacies of headquarters and the complexities of the Marine Corps Master Chief job. It truly is overwhelming when you first get there, and to have you help, I really appreciate it. And I'm not going to take a lot of time, but lastly, I have to thank my family, my wife Amber, my son Justin, Crystal, Destiny, and Whitney, my daughters. I've been dragging you guys around the country for almost 30 years now. My son actually put on the uniform himself, but I appreciate you, because without you and your support, I certainly would not be here today. And if I missed anybody, I'm really sorry. I see Commander Kutch, who was my boss up at DCMS. So, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the ceremonial change of watch, The Enlisted Ancient Albatross number 10 will present the ceremonial guard to Enlisted Ancient Albatross number 11.
He has to wear this for the rest of the ceremony. I can tell you this is not
Ladies and gentlemen, our 11th Ancient Albatross, Master Chief Kit Harris. Master Chief Harris, if you'll remain at the podium, please allow me to introduce Rear Admiral James C. Van Sice, U.S. Coast Guard retired, President of the Coast Guard Aviation Association, which is also affectionately known as the Ancient Order of the Pterodactyl.
First of all, let me offer my congratulations to Master Chief Harris on ascending to the position of 11th Enlisted Aviation Albatross. Thank you very much. And certainly, Master Chief Hill has just been extraordinary, and I'm going to talk about that just for a moment a little later. I'd like to extend a thank you to the United States Coast Guard, as represented here by our Commandant and the Commanding Officer of this air station, for allowing me to represent the 1,700 members of the Coast Guard Aviation Association. That association was started in 1977, I believe fundamentally so we could get invited to stuff like this. There's a website if you're interested in what we do and what we've accomplished over the last couple of years, which I think is very significant. Please look at the website. At this moment, I would like to present the certificate that is transferred from us to the new Ancient Albatross. And if I can ask Commander Branch to please read the words.
Ladies and gentlemen, whereas Master Chief Petty Officer Kit Harris, U.S. Coast Guard, having defied the law of gravity and circumvented other outer limits of good fortune in a Coast Guard aviation career, copiously strewn from end to end with improvident demands and alarming encounters with the hazards of that unique flying environment, and whereas Master Chief Harris has outlasted, outgrown, outstriven, or otherwise left strewn in his wake all his counterparts in Coast Guard aviation, thus earning him the title of Enlisted Ancient Albatross of the United States Coast Guard. And whereas Master Chief Harris is a good member in standing with the Coast Guard Aviation Association, also known as the Ancient Order of the Pterodactyl, as was his predecessor bearing this honored title. Be it known that the membership of this association, in unanimous accord with the bestowal of this honor, herewith proudly entrusts Master Chief Harris with custody of a royal pterodactyl egg, to be hatched and nurtured in continuance of pterodactyl lineage in the high office of Enlisted Ancient Albatross of the U.S. Coast Guard. By order of the authority invested in me as President of the Coast Guard Aviation Association, Rear Admiral James Van Sice, U.S. Coast Guard, retired.
I was also asked to make another presentation on behalf of the